Hi, I'm Tim Bader and I'm partway through a series on understanding the Bible. Last time I spoke about thought-for-thought translations and began to explain how the meaning of words changes over time and what that means for our understanding of the Bible in English, or whatever language you speak. I used examples like the word awful, which once meant awe-inspiring, whereas now it usually means something completely different. Recently, I saw a YouTube video where the speaker expressed their concerns about a specific translation of the Bible. The video itself was well made and included several contributing scholars. However, there were a number of comments below it where people were advocating for the King James Version, and one in particular stood out to me. They said that the original usage of thee and thou was singular and informal, while you was plural and formal. That meant that the King James Version translators were correct to use thee and thou because the Greek or Hebrew also uses the more intimate terms of speaking to God. But the commentator took their argument one step further and said that modern translations that reverted to using you instead of thee and thou were now incorrect and in fact blasphemous. Personally, I don't agree with what they were saying, but it did give me pause for thought. I looked up about thee and thou and discovered that they were indeed informal words rather than formal. The problem is that the person who made that comment had a fatal flaw in their thinking. They failed to take account of the meaning of words changing over time. The word you may well have been formal and plural when the King James Version was first published in 1611, but the same can't be said of the word you today. Today, you is most definitely an informal word, and thee and thou are viewed as formal because of their association in our minds with high church services. In other words, the meanings of you and thee have completely reversed now compared to back then. This leads us to two conclusions. First, it helps to explain why there are so many translations of the Bible, because each new generation needs to read and understand the Bible in their own language, but even that language may change in another few years. Second, it also illustrates that a word-for-word translation isn't always and automatically the best solution. That's a long way round of saying that thought-for-thought translations can also be helpful. In the case of thee versus you, the specific word we should use to translate the original language might be debated, but the thought here is that, amazingly, we can address God informally and intimately despite the fact that he is the all-powerful creator of the universe. And that's the kind of thing that thought-for-thought translations, such as the New International Version, try to capture. I may be splitting hairs a little bit with the whole thee, thou and you argument, but I hope you can see how it helps us understand some of the issues we face. I also find it interesting that the new King James Version, first published in 1979, is considered to have moved more towards thought-for-thought translation compared to the 1611 version. To turn this video around into something more positive, one thing that thought-for-thought translations like the NIV or the New Revised Standard Version are frequently good at is being readable. They're usually easy to pick up off the shelf and simply read compared to their word-for-word brethren. Because of this, I've heard some Christians say that thought-for-thought translations are better for reading, while word-for-word translations are better for study. Another way to put it may be that word-for-word translations may help us understand the original meaning of specific words, while thought-for-thought helps us understand the application to today's world. But I'll leave that discussion to the experts and to you for your own research if you're interested. Now, I think there is perhaps an element of truth to those ideas, but both kinds of translations have value. I believe it also means that no one translation is perfect or the best in all circumstances, and I would encourage you to read more than one Bible because of it. And that's about all I have time for today, but join me next time when I'm actually going to talk about a third kind of translation. These ones are eminently readable, but can also be the most problematic for those with scholarly leanings. If you're watching this on YouTube, please like and subscribe. It helps me out immensely and I really appreciate it. I'll see you next time.